Let's talk about read alouds today. I don't usually plan my read alouds in advance. I kind of just go with what we're feeling. And this year was actually our most successful read aloud year. And I want to share with you guys the books that we read and a little bit about each one and what our favorites were. Hi, I'm Jamie, and this is Simply Learning Together, where I like to share all kinds of things about our homeschool. Today, I want to share about the books that we read aloud together. You know, I have 4 young children, 8 and under, and we've always been reading aloud since we started homeschooling. It started out kind of tough trying to figure out how to do it. This year, we found a really great groove that made it super successful, and we're finally opening books, working through them together and finishing them, which feels fantastic. You know, I'm not a big reader myself. I just don't really make the time to do it. Even though these are children's books, I can say that I've read this many books and it feels good. And this is what I just love about homeschool, is how we can accomplish these things all together. So even though these are not meant for adults, I can sit here and count them and feel proud of myself for reading them as well with them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to challenge myself to just briefly tell you a little bit about the book, maybe something we liked or didn't like, and then that'll be it. I'm just going to share about each one. Let's get started. The first book we read for the school year, we read The Boxcar Children. This book is absolutely fantastic. It is such an easy read, and the kids just soaked up these adventures. These children lost their parents, and they are kind of on the run trying to make a home for themselves. And we actually completed this alongside a little read aloud unit, and I will link that here below, but it really allowed us to experience the book, and it was such a great way to start off the year. Oh, I will tell you, there is a movie, The Boxcar Children. It is a cartoon and it is adorable. It is almost just like the book, and it was super cute, very worth the watch. The next book we read was Black Beauty. Now, this is a classic that I had never read, and I really wanted to read it, and my daughter had started taking writing lessons, and so I thought it would be perfect. It really was. The chapters are pretty short, so they're easy to get through, but I'm not gonna lie, if you don't have knowledge about horses and the different tools that you use, I think it would kind of go over your head. It did for me a lot. I had to ask my daughter what a lot of things were, but I think because we could relate to it, because she was so engrossed in that horse life, we enjoyed it a little bit more. But if you're not familiar with the terms, I feel like it might be hard to get into. This took us quite some time to finish, which is why I was committed to reading short chapter books after this. The next book that we read was called The Courage of Sarah Noble. Check it out. Can you tell I had some trauma from our last book? It took us forever to finish that book, and so I wanted something that I knew we could finish that didn't take months. And we also changed our read aloud schedule. So when we picked up this book, we started reading our read alouds at night before bed, and that has been wonderful. We've been doing it for the last 6 or 7 months, and it's just been great. So that's when we do our read alouds now. The Courage of Sarah Noble is actually based on a true story. It is a Newbery Honor book, and it's actually really great for your early reader as well. But it's about a young girl who travels with her father to make a new home for their family. And it took us about 5 or 6 days to read it. It was very, very short, super sweet, a great one if you're looking for something for either your young reader or a quick read for your family. Oh, also, I made some activities to go along with this book, so let me link that here for you below as well. The next book we read was recommended by many people in the Instagram world, and it was called Heartwood Hotel. It is about a mouse. My children loved it. I was not quite a fan as much. It's kind of fantasy talking animals, so I think that's more just like a personal preference, but it's very cute, very sweet. A little mouse that is looking for a home and lots of animal stories. A really fun read. My children enjoyed this very much, and it is the first of a series, so if your children do like this, there are more for you to read as well, but this is the only one we read. I do want to share with you that in the Heartwood Hotel, this is kind of what the inside looks like, and there are cute pictures to go along with it on some of the pages. The next book we read was the first of the Sophie Mouse series. This is called A New Friend, and my daughter was actually reading these on her own. These are great for your beginning readers. And my kindergartner saw her reading them and wanted to read them as well. And so we started to read one. Same kind of feel as that Heartwood Hotel, and kind of coincidence that they're both about a mouse. But just very cute. It's about friendship. It's about making good choices. And just a really fun and easy read. And there's also a picture on almost every page. So that's kind of fun when you have young readers. After a couple of mouse books, my daughter requested some historical fiction, which I was so excited about because I love historical fiction. And we actually used a dart guide from The Brave Writer. So if you're interested in that, let me know in the comments because I'm thinking about doing a review for that. But this is Sarah Plain and Tall, and once again, a short, quick read. So I want to say this was about 8 or 9 chapters, so we finished it in maybe a little over a week. There are not pictures in this book. However, it is still an easy read for your young, maybe 2nd or 3rd grader. A very good book. This is about 2 children who lost their mother, and their dad is trying to find them a new mother. And so just very sweet book. I love books from this time period. I just want to jump back and live in that time period. Super cute. After we read that, I had the idea to come up with a homeschool book club with some friends of ours. And so the next book we read was The Adventures of Freddy Fox. And this is a classic. It is part of a series. Basically, it is about a mischievous fox who gets into lots of trouble. We read the book together, and then we had some friends over to come and do different activities with us at our home. I have them listed out on my blog, and I will link that for you below. We also read Little Pilgrims Big Journey. I had this in my cabinet and had never used it, had never read it. And I kept hearing so many things about it. I'm like, why am I not pulling this out? This is a beautiful story. It's a story by John Bunyan, and somebody has taken it and made it for children. And there's tons of pictures. My kids loved the pictures, but it's about a Christian and their journey to heaven. And so after each chapter, what's really nice is there are discussion questions that you can talk to your children about. So there's a summary and then understanding it and different questions that you can ask. And so those brought on some really neat discussions. So we really enjoyed that. And I believe there's another one, a second one, but we have not read that one. So the next one we read was a doozy. It was Caddy Woodlawn. This one took us quite a while to finish, but it was so wonderful. Once again, in the time period that I love, another one of our book club books. So I will link that for you if you're interested in some extra activities to go along with your story. This book is super good. It is about a young girl who is actually feeling more like she wants to hang out with her brothers and do the activities that her brothers do, more than what her mother wants her to do, where she is trying to be a young lady. So she's kind of struggling with who she is, and she's trying to discover that. I will say there are a couple things in here that can bring up really good discussion, but just to give you a heads up, there are some scenes where they kind of have some disagreements with a group of Native Americans, and there is some negative talk towards the different tribes that are near them. So talking about those things can bring on some great discussion with your family. I also will mention that there is a point where she receives a scalp belt. And so, you know, I actually never had to explain that. My kids didn't ask me, but it did come up. So it's one of those things where you don't want to give them more than they want to know. And they didn't ask, so I didn't tell them what a scalp belt was. And then the other thing is, the only other flag that I came across, and this is probably just because my children are so young, but there's a chapter where the boy is making up a story, and it was just the oddest story, and people were dying and getting killed, and it was just weird. But we read it, we laughed about it, and we moved on. So just kind of some things to think about as you are reading this book. Overall, it's fantastic. I would read it again. I would recommend it. It is very good. The last book we read to finish off the year was Pippi Longstocking. I remember Pippi from my childhood, not the book, but I remember watching a film, and so I really wanted to read it with my children because I heard so many great things about the story. Pippi is just so silly, and that's really all I can say about it. I mean, we would sit here and read the chapters before bed and just think, oh my goodness, she is wacky. So just a super fun read with your kids. Very laughable and enjoyable. One that I think I definitely want my kids to read on their own one day as well, because it's just really a good time reading it. So that's it for our read alouds. I enjoyed reading them so much. I am not quite sure what we're going to read for next year. Like I said, I basically pick it based on what we are accomplishing, and it kind of is less pressure on me that way. I don't feel like I'm trying to read a big list of books, or I'm not trying to rush through books. So this method of our read alouds has really been a great thing. So if you've read these, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear if you guys like them, or if one sounds interesting to you, just let me know in the comments. I will say that we are planning to continue our book club, where I will put some activities together for different chapter books. Make sure you join my email list, and you can get those book club blogs sent right there to you, and you can check out what's already there on the blog, and that's linked below for you. Happy reading!